Hey everybody, what's up? We're back with another episode of Tilted Talk. As always, Throoper here, joined by Throoper. But today we've got ourselves a very special guest, MonsterDface, the beloved Fortnite caster and podcast host. How's it going, my friend?
What's up, guys? And again, just want to express my thanks for you guys extending an invite to me. So I'm excited to kind of jump in today, and thank you guys again for inviting me.
No problem, dude. We're honored to have you here, and should be a lot of fun. There's been a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, you know, we're in the middle of the World Cup qualifiers. We got a brand new season on our hands. About a week old, so maybe not entirely brand new, but new enough for Fortnite at least. That's how it goes. But let's hop right into it. So I think first of all, we want to kind of learn a little bit more about you. So you've been streaming and playing Fortnite, like you've been hard into the scene since the beginning, essentially. But were you big into gaming before? Like, what was your background before Fortnite, and kind of how did you get into the whole content creation? What gave you the idea, like, hey, I should be making content, pushing my brand here?
Oh man, so content creation for me goes way back. I'd say about 6 years ago. I thought I was really good on Battlefield 3, believe it or not, on my PlayStation. Okay. And there's this YouTube channel called Machinima. Some of you guys might, this is way back.
Love Machinima.
Yeah.
So they did a top 10 series, and I was like, dude, I'm nice. I can get a clip on here. So let me record my gameplay. That led to me taking my first college financial aid check, buying a gaming computer, and the rest is history. Yeah, I swear, dude, I bought a gaming computer.
That's an investment.
Right, I invested. I didn't know back then, right? I started on Twitch, and my first games were Battlefield, Skyrim, and Dark Souls back then. So that's how I found the early days of Twitch. And it wasn't until about a year in, I would say, I kind of got the ropes of like what live streaming was, and I realized, oh my gosh, there's a whole culture here. I was probably one of those guys, you know, hey man, check out my channel, I need advice kind of dudes. Like I didn't understand the culture of what was Twitch back then. But that was my early, I guess, days of stepping into content creation. It all started because I wanted to be featured on someone else's YouTube video.
But you've been like a partner of Twitch for like 5 years. I think I saw on your Twitter, like some guy's been subbed to you for 5 years, right?
Yeah. So like the whole getting partnered on Twitch thing was kind of crazy. So the game that helped, I guess, begin the catalyst to my growth on Twitch was Clash of Clans, another game some of you guys probably play on your phone. Maybe at one point you were addicted to. So as I was, I guess, gaming Battlefield on Twitch, I was always checking my phone and collecting on my base, right? So I figured, dude, I don't want to play this game. I want to play this phone game. So how can I get the phone game on the computer? And I was like one of the early pioneers in beginning what was the mobile community on Twitch. So that grew me up to like a massive following. I think about like 150K followers in the mobile niche category. And I did that for about, I guess, 4 years, up until the release of Fortnite, where by then I was already doing some variety gaming. But it all kind of started with this crazy idea like, dude, I'm going to play this phone game, and I don't care if no one's streaming it, but I love this game. And lo and behold, there's a whole bunch of other addicted nerds like myself. And we grew a huge following from the ground up. And we started and basically pioneered what was mobile gaming on Twitch. And it allowed me to kind of live comfortably in that space because, you know, it's a very niche market. So, you know, sponsors would come, and that's where I really started to grow and figure, oh man, I'm not just a streamer anymore. Like I'm this is something different. Like I'm actually growing and brands want to work with me. Like, what is this, right? So I started to do my homework and got a grip on my space, I guess, on Twitch.
Wow. That's a really cool story. That's definitely one of the more unique stories, because I feel like today the most common story is, hey, I was like a pro player or one of the best players in the world at this very popular game, and then that kind of launched me into a career. But you were just kind of the opposite. Like, I'm just going to do what I like doing, and I'm going to have fun with it, and I don't really care what happens. But because of that, it's almost like you attracted your own like organic audience. I guess you weren't really, you don't have to compete with as many people, but that's a pretty awesome line for your resume. One of the founders of mobile streaming. Like,
and while I was working in the mobile space, and I still get offers, but like that's kind of like one of my titles, if you want to call it. Like, I'm a mobile specialist and just from working with companies and developers. I've done a lot of side projects and helping people develop apps and interface stuff. So that just comes from the years of playing the games. I know what works, what doesn't, and a lot of people, you know, I guess buy their faith in me, if that makes sense. So yeah, it definitely allowed me to kind of take a weird, different path in the gaming scene. And just to double back on what you said, always doing what I wanted, that's when I kind of found Fortnite, and I knew at that point, like literally, I bought the Save the World on the week that they released it to play the BR. So it was like $50 back then. As one of the first players I played, and I realized, oh, this game, I like this game. This is what I'm gonna do next. And then I dropped mobile and I rebuilt my entire community. This year is my first full year doing PC gaming full time. So Fortnite was the reason I think for that.
I mean, at least Fortnite's on mobile now, so you can always go back to the mobile community, man. I'm sure they would love to have you at any time. You got that channel now.
It's funny you say that. When Fortnite Mobile came out, they actually reached out to me first, like as one of the.
Really?
yeah. I had a friend
get that free
over.
Samsung, man.
It's so funny. Plan, man. That's how I got in with Epic though, because super weird coincidence. I worked with a company called Chair Games. Long behold, Chair Games was owned by Epic Games. And Chair Games is a mobile division. And, you know, just me being the guy that I am, I give people opportunity. And back then, Chair Games, I was like, who's Chair Games? Like, whatever. I'll do this meet with them at TwitchCon. And I just decided to go out with lunch for them and all that. 2 years later, everything came full circle when the guy from Chair Games reached out to me and was like, hey, I see you playing Fortnite. Let me introduce you to some people at Epic. And that was like one of my first internal connections with Epic, where I was like, oh my gosh, no way. This random dude I had lunch with to check out his beta game that I could have just said no to, but I decided, you know, deep down inside, like, you know what? Why not give this man an opportunity, right? If he was, you know, if he has the guts to come out and shoot a shot, then you know what? I'll go ahead and try it. And that's the kind of person I am, you know? So I respect that.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, it definitely pays off to constantly keep your doors open as much as possible, right? Like, obviously, you only have so much time in a day, but you know, even you coming on this show, like, we're still relatively new, and the fact that you were like, hey, yeah, sure, I'll come on. I mean, that does speak volumes about you. So
I was gonna say, tell them how easy it was to get me.
Yeah, it was easy. It was easy. You know, not to make you sound easy or anything, but. You know, it was just very simple. Shot you a DM, and you were very, very willing to come on. So, like I said, we really appreciate it. And guys, if you're watching right now in the chat and you want to drop a question here for us to ask Monster, just feel free, drop it in, and we'll forward that along to him and see if we can get a good answer out of him for you guys. So you said you started right away with Fortnite. My God, it was such a different game back then. I mean, people were, you know, harvesting all the materials to build giant bases at the end of the game. It was like no one was building these 1x1s, never mind all the other crazy stuff that people are capable of building today, right? So what made you think like this game has like a real future and this is all, or did you even think that? Were you just more playing it because you enjoyed it and you didn't really know whether it was going to succeed, or were you like from day one, no, this is going to be huge?
Early on, I saw that it was going to be big, and my driving factor was actually I played Rust. Rust had building in it, and I remember my first day on Rust, I got into my first I built a shelter and I got sieged on. So like people want to raid your base basically, and it was one of the coolest things like I've ever done because it felt so immersive. I'm like, I can't believe I just built like a little mini, you know, terrible looking castle, but people want to come fight me. And those little moments stuck with me. And that led to endless amounts of hours in Rust, which is a different story. But when we found Fortnite, I was like, no way I can build without like the time it takes to harvest in Rust, and it's on the fly. Oh, this is different, but this is also very, very smart, and it feels amazing. So like, yeah, I have early videos of me doing my first ramp rushes, and then it's so funny, but like I go up and then I start building floors out, and I'm like, oh, I can run across the air. Oh, this is crazy. Like it was I was mind blown. But that's what kind of got me started. I knew building was really cool because of Rust, and then when I played it in a fast-paced environment that was Fortnite with the BR element, I was hooked immediately, and I never looked back.
I think a lot of people can relate to that because it definitely has been a game that's, you know, it's grabbed a lot of people, and once they start playing it, it's kind of sinks its claws into you. You're like, I'm gonna be done, but never mind, one more game, one more. It's really one of those one more game type of games because especially if the game goes badly, it's just so quick, right? You're like, oh, what's 2 minutes, and then, you know, you're playing another 2 hours trying to get wins. So I think a lot of people can relate.
I agree because Well, my whole thing has always been free for all game types, free for alls in shooters, kind of been my thing. So once Fortnite came around with not only the battle royale mode, which I kind of got into PUBG, but then with this building mechanic, I think this is exactly why Fortnite's been having that staying power. It's just so unique in that way.
Yeah, definitely. So then obviously, you move from just streaming and playing the game yourself to actually like casting and fully creating content for the community. You do some VOD reviews. I saw you did something really good on Zexro. Is that how you say his name? That was a really like informational video. If you guys haven't seen that, it's on Monster's Twitter. Highly recommend checking that out. So how did you kind of transition into analyzing like the top tier of play? Was that something you've always liked doing with other games, or how did you kind of get started doing that?
Yeah, so one of my niche things, or one of the things that I like to do with my content, the way I curate my content is I've always dedicated a lot of time to the games that I really love and liked, but then I turned that into like an educational focus. So as early as my YouTube content goes, like way back 5 years ago, like Clash of Clans video, I'm literally teaching people, hey, here's my attack strategy. Let me show you why this works. You know what I mean? So that's something that's always been a part of me and the kind of content that I like to do. I moved that on to Kingdom Hearts. I eventually moved that on to Clash Royale and all the other mobile games that I played in the community in my little core niche. Then eventually Fortnite. One of my first tutorials was, hey, let me teach you guys how to snipe, because I know leading can be kind of difficult, but I know how to lead naturally because I played Battlefield, and this is what you got to do in that game. So let me show you the tricks. So I show people, like, hey, pick up your crosshair and check this out. This is 100 meters. This is a 300 meter gap. And that was how I began the tutorials. I want to say it wasn't until like later in the year where things started getting a lot more, I guess, interesting with the ramp rushes and editing. And that's when I realized, oh boy, this is getting way more like complicated. Let's keep the tutorials going because those are my best performing videos anyways. So that's kind of how I took that step. Now, when it comes down to getting into the competitive side of things, again, as early as I was into Fortnite, I was one of the founders on like squad scrimming. The earliest days, I'm talking before Tfue was signed to FaZe, before Myth was signed to TSM, and Chap was on a team called Splode, and 100 Thieves Kenneth was on a team called Llama Lords. These are literally internal, stupid little cliques that we had in Discord. This is how the whole trend that where can I get into the pro chords, the pro discords? It was because we started that way back in the day, because we were just like, I guess, the cream of the crop at the time, the only guys really focusing that hard, and running like what we were trying to do was like custom games with good players. So that's how I got into the competitive scene. And back then I was grinding the leaderboards too. So I was like top 20 in the world for global wins. So I was really into it. Yeah, I was super into it. I was ahead of the curve. I was there early, and I was helping to build the scene. I stepped away from competitive play, though, when Epic announced we're going to push the competitive agenda to duos. And I was like, nah, man, I got a whole squad. If it's not squads, I don't even want to play. And I was already like, I was months in grinding every night. I was a part of that little grind trend. And I was like, dude, I can't learn duo synergy all over again, let alone break up the team I'm playing with and then pick between and find who's my good partner. And like it was a whole different dynamic that I was like, man, it was great playing this, but I'm just gonna make tutorials since I built that credibility and made that space for myself in the community. And that's how I segued from just playing competitively, and I did do skirmishes and stuff, but more so to like, hey, I'm gonna teach people while I'm still a top tier in the game, and that's kind of where that went.
So if there was a squad tournament now, would we see you playing it instead of commentating it?
Yeah, I'd probably playing it. I'd actually playing it. That would force me to, maybe trios even would probably entice me to like,
that'd be exciting.
Let's do this. I love the dynamic of like trio play so far. I'm waiting for trio customs with Siphon, then I'll start hosting some tournaments or something. We'll have some fun with that.
Epic, you heard the man. Make it happen. Let's make it happen. Yeah. I'd be excited for trios as well. I think that was something that I believe it was Aspect. Was it Aspect Trooper?
Yeah.
Said that as well. Yeah. Yep. I think trios would be cool. I really do. I think that should definitely make a strong play in here. So then obviously, I mean, listening to you commentate, like you're very good at it naturally. Like it sounds like you've been doing this for a long time. But Fortnite's a really tough game to commentate just because of how crazy it is. Do you think that maybe because you're so experienced around the game and you've been around so long that it helps make it a little bit easier for you? Or was it a lot at first to try and keep up with everything? Like when you're watching these games live? Because obviously it's kind of different doing a VOD review or a tutorial where you can start and play and pause and rewind and go back versus just a live scenario. You have to speak, 1,000 words a minute and kind of keep going. So were you just naturally good at this? Like how did you kind of, I'm assuming that connection with Epic through that mobile game company we're talking about kind of got you into the door, but then did you spend a lot of time practicing, or how did you get so comfortable on a live broadcast?
So it's kind of funny. I never thought that my Clash of Clans streams are going to help me become a good commentator, but little did I know back in the day when we would watch a 50v50 war and an attack would pop off. That's what I was doing. I was play-by-playing like, oh, here it is. All right, Anthony's going in. He's taking on, I don't know, Kevin. And then I'd start talking about the raid, and I'd break it down in real time, like, and that was my show back then on Twitch. That's how I grew a big following, because it was kind of a live, sportsy mini tournament at all times. That was what the best content was actually the tournaments. So that naturally translated well into me playing that, I guess, analyst style play-by-play role that I kind of fit. I don't know what kind of commentary I necessarily do, but that's like what I like to do. Like I love doing play-by-play, but I love to sprinkle in the whys or the hows because that's what kind of geeks me up and gets me going in those moments. And what led me into wanting to pursue commentary a little bit more and a bit more seriously was at the PlayStation Experience. Myth, CDN, Dr. Lupo, and myself were invited as content creators, and Golden Boy and Zeke were two of the commentators for that event. And it was way back when we were literally in a little janky booth with Fortnite and Epic Games, and we had PlayStation remotes, and we were playing. But at some point or another, Zeke didn't want to commentate, and there was like a spot there, and Golden was like, "Yo, who wants to do it?" And I was like, "Dude, I'll commentate. Let me try it." And I got my first taste of like a little bit of play-by-play with like the legend Golden Boy. Yeah. And for me, then I was like, there's no way I'm not going to say like, take this opportunity to just sit with this guy, Golden Boy. So like, he was a big something. He still is. But that was my first taste of that. And he praised me a little bit. He was like, dude, that was like really good. You've done this? And I was like, nah, man. I was like, just having fun. So when Summer Skirmish came around, I kind of had that confidence, a little, pat on the back of my shoulder. In my back of my head, I'm like, man, I don't know, Golden Voice, I could do this. So then I went in with a little more confidence that second time around. And I brought something different to the table that the other, I guess, featured guests at the time didn't, which was a little bit more traditional kind of play-by-play structure and less of the oohs and ahs, and more the here's what's happening. So I guess that's what kind of helped me get into the scene. But if it wasn't for Epic giving me more opportunity, I wouldn't be as comfortable as I am now. I swear I feel like I've gone through the most intense short span caster boot camp ever. Just amount of training they make us go, like not training, but like rehearsal and preparation time. So now I feel just comfortable in the pocket when it's time to go live for like what might be the biggest esports show, out there right now. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that's awesome. And, shout out to Golden Boy. I mean, Alex is a great guy. Like, if you are just a fan and you're watching and you just see his personality on stream, no, he's actually like that all the time. He's just like one of the nicest guys I've ever met. So I'm really happy that he kind of helped, nudge you along the path to getting into the booth because he's got an eye for that stuff, man. He really does. He knows how to spot talent. So it's a good person to get a pat on the back from. We're definitely glad that you stuck with it. All right, so let's move a little bit here into the actual into actual Fortnite right now and kind of what's going on modern day. So first question, this is a bit of a loaded question. I kind of want to throw you on the spot here. What region has the best players?
Oh, I stand on this one. I stand on this one all day, even while I'm on live broadcast. I think EU is way ahead of the curve. They've been ahead of the curve, and the reason for that, and I would say the reason for it, early on, they had customs available to them before the other regions did, and I think that helped catalyst them just a little bit more in terms of at least early day competition. But it wasn't until Winter Royale when I saw top 200 from Open Qualifier step in and the European scene was rocking at the time the double barrel shotgun way before NA was rocking it. And that's when I realized, dude, these guys are playing like some different monsters right now. Like, what's going on? Yeah, it looked like two different games. And although they didn't have the names back then, right? Like Metro wasn't, oh my gosh, Atlantis Metro, and the names that they are now, Lestream Sky, and Keenstar was just growing on the team from Team Solari. These guys were just coming out and growing through these events, but it was then that I saw, dude, no, this is a different play style. And eventually, once NA kind of adopted the double barrel, that's when I thought, right then and there, okay, EU started this. They were definitely ahead right now. I see it in the current day too. Some of the ramp plays and some of the window edits, and they're just crazy with it. So I'm going to EU.
Okay. Loyal to the people across the pond. I see how it is. But that does kind of make sense though, honestly, because even like North America traditionally has been console, right? Like we all grew up with Xbox or PlayStation, and that was kind of more popular here, whereas EU is really big on the PC gaming. And even if you look at a game like Counter-Strike that has a ridiculously long competitive history, EU tends to be better than NA. And I mean, that's obviously like a shooter, it's much more translatable that to Fortnite than a game like League of Legends is. But again, League of Legends, same sort of thing. Like EU tends to outperform NA. So we gotta beat those Europeans at something, man. Something on a computer. I'm just waiting. So let's see here. So we were talking a little bit about the new patch a little bit before the start of the show. There's been obviously a couple new patches, brand new season now. So what are the main things that stand out to you from season 9? Like, I know you made a tweet a little bit earlier saying you thought this patch was a home run. You loved it. So what about this patch makes it a home run to you? What makes it so good in your eyes?
So I guess the biggest patch, and we're talking about 9.01, just for you guys tuning in. This patch here is a standout patch because we not only got introduced to a new rifle into the game, but we got some adjustments to what might, arguably be the best weapon in Fortnite, which is the drum gun. So for the drum gun to get base damage reduction by, a fair margin, separates this patch from the others because this is the biggest bane in the current update. And this is why everyone's complaining on social media, right? It's like, dude, first of all, how did drum get voted back? That's a whole story. So well, shout out to competitive, but you guys realize you're the negative 1%.
Some shit, man.
Yeah, I know. Like of all the things we could have voted for, drum gun comes back, and the competitive vocal community. Yeah.
But one guy for the sword, one for the plane, just whacking it, just praying. I'm like, yeah, you just stay over there.
And it could have went either of those ways, but it just shows that the casual kind of fun player base, the younger audience, the people that are just going to follow the crowd, they're going to just do that. And that's how the drum gun got back in the game. But with that, like that was one of the standout things. And they also listened to another problem. Season 9 introduced one of the best mobility styles around the map, all the slipstreams. But one of the biggest errors with it, it was on 24/7. There was tons of end games being ruined, and that kind of hindrance when you're playing a game, you can't build through it and stuff. Not only that, you would take unnecessary fall damage if you just missed your build. So they fixed that immediately, instant error, and they fixed it. So for me, they recognize, hey, here's some of the big red flags, and they adjust them right away. And what was most impressive was the slipstream one, because I don't know what kind of coding goes into like, hey, we're going to turn this off at the zone 5 and make it stable, and to have all that work in a single patch, a content patch. This was supposed to be like the midweek, hey, we're just bringing a rifle to you guys, but it was like a content patch that introduced an actual full-on change to the game. So I was happy.
Yeah, like nearly a 20% nerf in the drum gun damage, like 27 to 22. That's almost 20%. That's a huge damage drop off, and I think it does a lot to alleviate the concerns of a lot of players. But just bringing it back, like you said, I mean, we touched on this last week, but I thought it was kind of genius on Epic's part, because the Epic minority, I mean, the competitive minority, like we are the minority, unfortunately, but we're very vocal, right? Just like kind of almost all major discussions in all parts of the world today, like the people who are the most vocal sometimes think that they're the majority just because, well, this is the only opinion I'm seeing. you kind of forget that there's 90% of the world that's just not participating in the conversation at all. They're just logging onto the game and playing, right? So it's kind of genius on Epic's part to show you, like, see, guys, you're not the only part of the community. There's a way bigger part of the, because it won by a landslide. Like, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
It was sad.
Yeah. It was pretty crazy. And I don't know if you guys watched the live kind of event that Fortnite streamed from the perspective, but even that lobby that Dr. Lupo was in, it was just like, are you serious? Like, everyone's on the drums. So, you know, the world, I guess, got to see the truth.
Yeah. So it was genius. And then, like you said, you know, just patching the slipstream so quickly, you know, for all intents and purposes, I think season 9 is going to be what the World Cup is played on, correct? The actual World Cup itself.
Well, the final, from what I hear, it looks like it's going to stay on season 9, so there shouldn't be any drastic map changes or anything. But you know, that I know as much as you guys on that one.
Okay. But that was definitely the speculation that I've been hearing, you know, around the community. And so from that front, it makes sense. And I actually really like what Epic's doing and taking the prerogative and the initiative to kind of move forward and get things balanced as quickly as possible. So then, you know, there's been a lot of changes, obviously, throughout the first 5 weeks. Like, every week has almost felt like a different tournament. There's been, you know, something different or something new to kind of change the flavor of the game. But I think now that we're heading into the latter half of the qualifiers and we're, you know, getting closer to the actual World Cup itself, you're seeing them really try to nail down, like, this is what the World Cup is going to be. This is what the competitive format's going to be, and allowing really all the players to get used to it, which, you know, for the competitive integrity of the competition, I think is insanely important. So shout out to the guys at Epic for making that happen so fast. Tyler, did you have anything that you wanted to ask Monster specifically before we kind of get into the rest of what's been going on this week and all that sort of good stuff?
Well, particularly, I mean, how did you feel about last week in the qualifiers? They had the finals on Sunday. All vehicles were disabled, I believe, because of an issue where some people couldn't get off the vehicles during the semifinals, which was unfortunate for some people that ended up not qualifying because of that reason. But they wanted to make sure there was no other issues. And we had a whole day of competitive Fortnite with no vehicles whatsoever. What did you think about that personally? Because I thought it was pretty interesting. I mean, a lot of people figured that we're gonna have a ton of ballers in the end game, and that's why, and it'd be better without them. But I mean, with them reactivated and now with them even having 50 less HP with this recent update, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be as much of an issue. But what did you think of the games last week, where it was kind of like more bare bones than anything?
Yeah, so like I woke up and I saw that and I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be hot fire under the community," and it was in a way, but for me, I felt more like, you know what, I give, I guess, props to Epic for just biting the bullet and realizing, hey, we can't fix this right now, and we can't realistically ask you guys, hey, to fix this bug, go into your settings real quick, change your keybind, like, you know, because there's, you know, I guess, on the fly fix, but you can't do that in competitive environments. So for them to kind of, you know, chomp down and I guess take the L on it and say, hey, listen, we're just going to turn it off. I respect them for that. I think that was the best play to make for I guess, the situation, to reduce the mayhem, I guess, and the frustration from some people. And I would rather that than be the one unfortunate, the 1 in 5 to say, dude, I couldn't jump on my ball or I couldn't jump off the hoverboard, right, where you're exposed, and then die to that. That would be ridiculous. So that was a good thing. I guess the initial response from the community, everyone went up in flames, right? Everyone, oh, imagine you disabling the vehicles and this and that. But at the same time, I felt like you guys are all hypocrites, because you're the same one that says, man, you know, this game would be great with all ballers. How about we turn these off? So when they get turned off on the fly, now suddenly you're out hanging. You didn't have, you know, a backup plan or, you know, some kind of strat. But after the tournament was over, after, you know, the show was up and we got to watch everything, the players responded positively. The players like, dude, this was some of the greatest experience that we've had playing. Like, it was a good weekend or a good day of gaming, which was good to hear, because it shows that they missed that, I guess, core ground and pound interaction and not having players depend on mobility. And it makes you own up to your own mistakes. Like, we're all on the, you know, fair playing field. There's no excuse that Baller made the end game with all his mats, etc. And then, that just kind of, I guess, made the players realize. From a show perspective, it kind of sucks that we only jump into like zone 5, so we didn't really get to see the effects of no vehicles, which would be first zone rotations, second zone rotations, and early game decision making. That's just kind of how the show runs right now. World Cup would be different, of course. We'll have full game formats, I'd assume at least, because we're there. But it does suck that you couldn't really see the effect of no vehicles on show day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting too. That, I mean, with that day without ballers that everybody got to see, I wonder if that glitch kind of was a good problem in a way. I wonder if that kind of forced this new change on the baller, where they saw this day without them, without anybody using them, and then kind of figured like maybe we'll make them a little bit less viable now. Like I'm actually wondering if that glitch happened to like the decision making was a part of the process with this change. I'm actually really curious.
I mean, whenever a game or a competitive weekend like that goes down, I mean, they get numbers, so who knows? Internally, it could have been like an eye opener, like, oh, hey guys, more people died this time around, or oh, hey guys, this is way more consistency. Check these out, right? Or who knows, right? It could have actually affected the overall resource pool of the game, or maybe player pool, item pool, right? Because having vehicles allow you to get to chests and stuff faster. Like it could really break the entire game in ways that none of us know, but internally there could be big shifts. But
I just feel bad for the people that were like, yes, no vehicles, none of that BS, and then they were stuck in like the end games with the slipstreams flying all over the place. God, they just can't win.
That's the one, dude. Those are the rough ones.
Yeah.
Well, you can't win them all, right? I mean, people asked for no baller. They got no baller for a week. Now it's been nerfed too. Again, 25% of its health is gone. So 150 damage. I feel like that's a very reasonable place for it to be. I'm still not a gigantic fan of it, but it does have an insanely big hitbox. It's super easy to shoot. So, I think it's about as balanced as it can be right now. All the other vehicles, I think they're fantastic. And for the World Cup itself, you'll actually want them because they allow people to be more aggressive in those first and second and third rotations, where it's like, well, do we pick this fight or do we have to run right now halfway across the map? But again, with the slipstreams and stuff, you have so much mobility given to you that it was not that bad not having the vehicles last weekend, right? Because it wasn't like in Season 8 where, there's some air vents in places and stuff, but you didn't have the same level of mobility that you have now. So I'm sure it all worked out for the best. And like you said, everybody was on the same footing. It was an even playing field, so no excuses, which is good. So speaking of that, I think we have the results actually from this World Cup and this World Cup qualifier weekend. So talk to us a little bit here. Who was there anybody that qualified that surprised you? Was there anybody that really impressed you? And who is not qualified yet? You're like, damn, how is this guy not qualified yet? How is he not in? So I kind of want to hear on all of those points a little bit from you.
I guess. So when someone new steps up to the plate and they kind of make it their week and they finally make it through and they break through, that's always really awesome to see. But what impresses me the most is the people that have stepped up and technically requalified multiple weekends in a row. I'm talking players like E11 Stompy, who came in and won off the bat for solo, then won the duo, and then qualified again for solo somehow, and then qualified again for solo. You get what I mean? So players like Dubs, players like Stompy, players like Clicks. You see FaZe Mega up there. So FaZe Dubs already, or Dubs before he was picked up. Dubs and Mega are teammates. These guys are players that have been showing up and qualifying time in and time out. And to see them requalify, those guys are probably the most impressive to me. But it's also no surprise. Rux has been out there grinding. Zayt and Ghost Saf, another dynamic duo pair that we're probably going to see them qualify for duos. So it's no surprise. These are standout individuals that have been here since the early days. And I guess when it comes down to who do I want to see qualify or quite hasn't broke that threshold, there's players in EU that I saw Airwalks just come out of I think 7th when it was 6 qualifying spots or something like that, a few times just out of the running, or I think last week we watched Aspect. Aspect had just a monstrous opening week, 22 game pre-qualifier, and then just went under the radar. And Aspect and Animal are another beast duo that we just quite haven't seen get that last 1 or 2 game seal to make it through, but doesn't mean that they're out of the running. It's so weird because even if you like even if one of the best duos doesn't make it, let's say all the way through the worlds, it doesn't mean that they couldn't have made it, if that makes sense. Because any small little tweak, all of these guys, and I mean so many of these duos, are just that good. So it kind of hurts that top 100 is the only people making it through the World Cup finals. I almost would have loved to see top 200, then put them toe-to-toe again, or and even give top 200 a little bit more love, because like those guys are that damn good. Like they're that good, and I see it week in and week out.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's been most surprising for me, just as a fan watching, is just how many players that sometimes you necessarily haven't heard of, or I'm sure somebody like you who's been in a lot of these groups and a lot of these chats, you've seen these guys, but they're players without orgs, they're players without stream followings. Like they don't have a big name per se, and then they just show up and they go absolutely ham in one of these World Cup qualifiers, and you're like, holy hell, who is this kid? This kid is a god. And for me, that's what I think is the coolest thing about this World Cup, is that you have really a huge chance for a lot of these players to make a name for themselves who have been unable to do so, because you can do it from home, right? You don't need to go to some tournament. There's no barrier to entry. As long as you have an internet and a good setup, you can qualify for the World Cup. You can get your name out there. So it's a really cool like launching platform, I think, for a lot of these kids' careers. And, like Animal and Aspect, obviously we've had Aspect on the show. We want them to make it through. It's a big duo that, like you mentioned. But yeah, Stompy in Europe has just been, I might go out on a limb and say he might be the best player in the game right now. I'm going to take your word for it that Europe's the best region. And if you were to, follow the logic, well, who's the guy who does the best in Europe? Oh, it's the Stompy guy. He might be the best player in the game at the moment.
Yeah, there's some crazy players, man. But, World Cup will decide who's on that week, basically. Yeah,
definitely. So last week was the first week we got to see with the new map, right? And I mean, it wasn't just a new map. There was so many changes that came through because of Season 9. Obviously, the pump shotgun, one of the all-time favorites of everybody everywhere, gone into the vault. You had new locations come up that were previously non-existent. So what was kind of eye-opening to you in terms of what were people utilizing, what weren't people utilizing? Like, what were you seeing that from the new stuff that was being most used, or what stuff seemed to be missing and that players were kind of having a hard time adjusting to still, if anything?
I think, so I don't think there was actually anything missing. If anything, I think there was a little bit more given to the game with this season. And the reason I say that is because mobility, again, just at an all-time high. You're talking slipstreams that allow you to literally slit through any part of the map that you want to get to. And then shadow bombs. Now players, again, just getting more comfortable with shadow bombs. So Epic has done a really good job with the last few item introductions. Not only the shadow bombs, they also aced the flintlock, which is like low-key an amazing utility, high damage dealer, and can save you from fall damage. It's just Epic has really been doing a great job of what they're introducing to the game. Not like the boombox when that came in and it's kind of like shook things up, right? So they've had their fair share of, dude, what is this? Or like the first compact SMG where immediately they released it, it's like, this thing is disgusting. Like, why is this in the game? So they've had their fair shares of hiccups, but lately, even with all the changes, it's been a lot more fair, or like a lot more balanced in terms of, oh, this actually works for the game.
So you like the shadow bombs, because I completely agree with you on the flint knock. I think that thing is amazing. We've had a couple clips of the week already that have qualified through that, just from some really creative use of it. But the shadow bombs, man, there's something about invisibility in a video game that it kind of irks me a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I feel it. So the shadow bombs to me are fairly balanced. When you first use it, your first, like, I guess, second or two, you're actually visible to your opponent. So you can get shot a few times. And then your last second before you exit out of your invisibility, your complete invisibility, you're also visible again. So there's a bit of balance there. But what I really like about the shadow bombs, and what a lot of the other pro and competitive players are realizing, a stack of shadow bombs, you have 3 free rotations in endgame. It's better than 1 rift to go, 1 free rotation, get out of jail card, which also exposes you to air, I guess fire, if that makes sense. So shadow bomb, technically, as a 6 stack or even as a 3 stack, is arguably better than holding a rift to go. which up until this point, Rift to Go was like the king. If you had Rift to Go, you were the man that was probably going to win the game or had really high odds making end game because you just had that in your pocket. But now 3 Shadow Bombs, they're green rarity. People are dropping them on Def like candy, and you can find them early on for yourself to play to your benefit. So I'm all for items that are kind of common, I guess, that allow people to excel because they're the better player on the scene. So yeah, I love Shadow Bombs.
Okay, that makes sense. And that was actually like I'm willing to accept that point of view. That was like a very well articulated, like I can't really poke a hole in that line of logic. It is true that if they were legendary, it might be a little bit more annoying because then it's just kind of completely luck of the draw who runs into this legendary item somewhere and then they have them and other players don't. But by making them common.
And that's how people felt about the Rift. Like, oh, well, GG, he had 2 Rifts. But, like, no one says that about Shadow Bombs. Like, oh, GG, he has 6 Shadows. Like, you could get those too. Or, like, if you're battling for it, these are items that are available to you.
Okay. It's a good point.
Yeah,
favorite
Dave,
new spot.
I changed my mind on them too.
Did you?
Yeah, because I remember when they when they got announced.
Traitor.
Right when they got announced, I said I was going to hate them because the invisibility in a competitive online shooter, I feel like shouldn't be there. But the way they were utilized, like this past weekend, won me over. That play that I think Mr. Savage did, where he was completely blocked out, used it, popped all his way right up the mountain, and then saved himself while the end circle went over the top of the mountain. That was just absolute genius. I was loving the way that people were using them. They're way valuable than you might think.
And that's how the game evolves, right? Now people realizing, dude, why build up this one Shadow Bomb is going to save me hundreds of materials and get ahead of the player. So it's dude, like I said, they've been introducing some kind of good things, and I like it.
The worst part is there's no way to get out of the shadow early. So I saw a couple players actually during the qualifier. They would wait to the last second to rotate and then pop the Shadow Bomb, but then they realized they couldn't edit out of their box and then just completely took themselves out of the game. I was like, no! I like felt that one in my chest. That was so bad. But like that's the best thing about these new items. Like people are still finding these little things like just things that'll slip your mind like that. It's crazy, but they're so deadly at the same time.
Yeah, that's where, definitely part of the skill of being a competitive Fortnite player today comes in your ability to adapt and to learn how to use new items. I mean, I think Bala sent out a tweet today, like, what are the most important things in being a competitive Fortnite player? Like, what are the base mechanics? And for me, there was 3: building, aiming, and adapting to new stuff ASAP, like figuring it out as quickly as possible because it's constantly evolving game, right? It's not some static game that Epic goes, okay, guys, we released this game. We'll see you guys in a year and a half with some new content. It's like, no, they're changing things every week and it keeps it very interesting and very fresh. And if you're going to compete, you have to stay on top of that stuff. Otherwise, you're going to get taken out and, it's your own fault for not really keeping up to date with everything. So now for the hard question. Best new location.
Ooh, this is a tough one. So I've played just about everywhere on the map. If I had to choose like an actual new location of, I guess the 3 that were introduced. Right now my favorite is the pressure plant. And I'll start by shooting down the others first. Neo Tilted got what feels like a significant reduction in, I guess, wood material from the houses, so it makes it kind of weird to fight. And it's also a different type of fighting mechanic. In the past, the old Tilted, the way it was a lot of third-party controller kind of stuff. But here it's a lot more outdoors, using the rooftop, so battling there is completely different too. Now, Mega Mall is a cool area and all, but it just doesn't have that feel. The mall itself is really weird. There's some areas you can't really build inside the mall. So some of those archways, you actually can't protect yourself very well. It's a terrible place to get caught out on. Don't like that place because of the layout and how you can't build there. And that leaves me with Pressure Plant, which is probably the best because it has all of the geysers to kind of get out of. And it's loaded with loot. And not only that, there's clearly a lot of options, right? You can go anywhere to Sunny Steps. You can go to the pirate ship down below. You can push across the map to the Mega Mall, maybe dive on a player that is on a rotation or something like that. So I like the Pressure Plant. It's probably the most secluded and the better one of the bunch for the new one. So I'll go with that one.
Kind of has that like old Dusty Divot feel where there was all those like towers and stuff around and you can just kind of like climb up into any of them and you can shoot across and then like central building. That's kind of what it reminds me of a tiny bit. I don't know if I'm alone on that. but it's a cool spot. I like it. Except I landed there today and somebody got a gun before I opened the chest and killed me instantly. So kind of salty. Kind of salty still. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Okay, so I think okay, one last question before we kind of head into some of the later topics. One more World Cup related question. If you had to, put your money down now, what are the things that are currently in the game that we're still going to be seeing in the game come World Cup time? Like, what things are still going to be as prominent? What strategies or items? Like, what do you think is here now that, if you were talking to a competitive player, say, hey, make sure you really know how to use X, Y, and Z, because these things are 100% going to be here when the actual World Cup comes around?
Your pickaxe. Because knowing... Dude, no, honestly, knowing Epic Games, man, nothing is safe. I kind of learned that after they took away the burst rifle. I thought that was a staple, and I'm going way back now. But dude, like, it's a burst rifle. Why would you take that identity of like a 3-round rifle out the game? Yeah, the FAMAS and the burst. It was at that point I realized, oh no, you can't trust him. Anything can go at any moment, and we talked about that today because they brought another AR to the game. Last time they introduced the AR, they took an AR. So we looked at the pool like, I think the common AR is probably going to go next. Heavy AR has a pretty strong identity. The SCAR will create uproar probably in the casual community because they took away the suppressed version. So with a new kind of hybrid tactical AR, I think the normal AR is going to go next. So I actually don't think anything is safe in the game. That's my assumption.
The pump went, and who thought that was coming ever?
Exactly. It doesn't get any worse than that. Yeah, it doesn't get worse than that. The pump went. I mean, the heavy shotgun went. So it's been a recurring thing. Whenever there's too many of one type of item, there's always some to get taken out. Even with the explodes, we had clingers for a while, then they took them. Impulses took them. The mega pulses took them. So they play pick and choose to make the game always feel dynamic. We're gonna lose the AR soon. I called the guys. Get ready.
It's funny though, because I'm wondering. It makes me think of what other stuff. I mean, besides the drum gun, a lot of people forget. I think it was when Season 9 launched. Grenades kind of like low key slid back into the game. A lot of people forget, and I used to love grenades. I think they're really effective, and I'm glad they found their place back into the game. I guess because they took a couple things out, they went into a little bit more balance in the explosives. But I don't know how I feel about that because the boombo's still a thing. So I mean, it's kind of still up in the air. But week by week, like you said, you never know. Things are changing.
Yeah, it's true. Rest in peace, pump shotguns. I miss only having to hit somebody one time and getting a kill. So much easier.
Yep.
Now you have to be good, which is hard. Anyway, I guess we're going to move into our next topic of the show here. So generally we do some hot takes. We kind of dive into some discussions that the community's been having either on Reddit, on Twitter. We look around, we find some stuff. And the first, shout out to Ninja, the old OG Halo guy, my brethren, preaching positivity, telling people that, especially content creators, like, hey, listen, guys, if you're making your living right now streaming and making YouTube videos and doing all this stuff for the game, you kind of need to be responsible with your voice and your opinion and your messaging, because you have thousands and thousands of people listening to you and who respect your opinion and respect your thoughts. And, obviously that's not to say that you can't criticize things and you can't shape things, but you have to do it in a constructive way where, you're actually giving Epic a chance here. You're not just saying like, this sucks, I hate it. Bleh. Like that's not helpful. It's turning people off the game. And it's just not, like useful, I guess. Whereas if you go, hey, do you know what? I think this is a little bit overpowered, or this is a bit too common, or this is, not good enough and we need to do X, Y, and Z to make it a little bit better or bring it more in line with other items, then you're actually helping Epic out. You're going, oh, okay, here's a solid opinion that they can use to kind of craft their game. What do you guys think about this? I mean, I know obviously Monster, you're a content creator, streamer, and commentator yourself. So obviously this is probably an issue that kind of touches close to home for you as well.
Yeah, I can jump on this. So I think it's important that you guys understand that at the end of the day, as a content creator, as a person who has a brand and a voice in the community, your influence means a lot more than you think. When you shoot down a game, you're slowly but surely killing your own job. And if you want to continue to have a job, you need your game to thrive and do amazing. How do you do that? You preach constructive thoughts and criticism, but not only that, you make sure your fan base is actively engaged. No one wants to watch their quote unquote favorite streamer not enjoy the game they're playing. That clearly, the transparency will be there. You will slowly lose fans. And then when you start going downhill, you start blaming the game, but you need to look at yourself and your own brand first. So Ninja is a good example of someone who's been in the game for many years. He goes, obviously longer than me. I've been a content creator for 5 years, partnered on Twitch. You don't make it this far by, destroying the games that, kind of build you up. This is your foundation. This is your platform, and you have to take care of it. So these streamers, these new, young, big voices don't understand that this is only their first year in the game. And when Fortnite does eventually fizzle out, so would their careers, because they haven't learned how to be a professional in the space and grow themselves. And I think it's up to the orgs to really take a look and give a little bit more guidance to the youth on the scene, because it's unfortunate that they don't understand how fragile their foundation really is. They're standing on glass, and they don't quite honestly understand that Ninja's on a nice cement block. I'm probably on something a little strong too, because I've been through the game and I understand how to play the game, if that makes sense. So these guys are they're playing with a very fragile matter, and people may not realize that now, but one day they'll look back and say, dude, when I had 2,000 viewers, I had it good. I wish I didn't do that. And, only time will tell when they learn from their mistakes. But I guess that's what happens when you go through a couple games. You have to learn through that. So they'll see. Yeah, that's why I respect what Ninja says, because Ninja understands. He's been through many games. I've been through many games. And I shared that tweet. I jumped on the thread and I was like, they don't get it. This is why. And Ninja understands. He's been in the game long enough to understand how to build a brand and how to be a strong voice in the community the right way.
Yeah. I mean, he's been in content creation for a long time. And, like you said, I think for a lot of these players, they're so new to this scene. They don't really understand that if you kind of, at the end of the day, we've talked about this. Tyler and I have talked about this multiple times, but esports is marketing, right? Like at the end of the day, that's what it is. So if you're not marketing the product well, if you're not being positive, and I mean, like I said, constructive criticism, no problem with that. But if you're just, crapping on things, and that's not going to get you very far, and it's not going to endear you necessarily to the brands that want to pay you to promote things, which is ultimately how you make your career in this space as you kind of progress and move forward. Throoper, do you have anything to add to that?
No, he pretty much hit the nail on the head, because I've seen a lot of that type of behavior in the Gears of War community, where I got my start casting with. I started doing majors in the MLG circuit and everything like that for the Pro Circuit Season 2, and we constantly try to tell all these players that you gotta, you're looking out for yourself as much as you're looking out for each other, technically, because you have to care about the community just as much as you care about your own brand. Because if that's the game that you're focused on, if that's where your skill comes from, and the place you want to put your focus on, it's not going to help anybody. And I'm surprised that a lot of people don't see the bigger picture. What you have to really look for is the bigger picture. And constantly bashing the game isn't going to look good, because a lot of influencers are really, really impressionable. We've seen that many times before. I mean, there's people that have even change their stream content because they want to be more open and welcome more viewers. So when people have such a platform where their words can touch a lot of different ears, it's not very constructive to crap all over the game consistently. I can totally see the constructive criticism and actually giving reasons or to why things should change or be the way they are, instead of just saying this sucks, you suck, this is trash, all that. Like, I think it's a thing that's popular nowadays. A lot of people just want to hate, and like people honestly get clicks and get likes that way just because of the negativity, which is unfortunate, but it's not going to help anybody at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's true. It's like cool to be negative right now.
Yeah,
and it's not too many voices that kind of, I guess, school them like, hey, you don't want to turn your own community off to the game you're playing, because then they don't want to watch your game.
And another thing is that you'll see people that are like constantly trashing the game, or the same people be replying all this toxic stuff that isn't constructive at all and downright hostile almost. And then you'll like click on their profile and they're like aspiring streamer or graphic designer, content creator. Like, they don't get it. Like, you can't grow yourself if your people are doing stuff like that. No one's going to want to work with you.
My favorite one is bash, 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 and then, oh, by the way, I have a creator code if you guys want to go buy skins. Like, what?
Yeah.
Why
It's like
would
in their Twitter name, like creator
why
code.
would any of your fans want to buy something that you don't enjoy, according to your media? Like, you know, so hypocrisy.
Just need to take a big step back. That's all.
Oh man, I'm really glad you guys touched on that though, because this is something I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit. Is, you know, obviously, like we just mentioned, a little bit of immaturities at play here for a lot of these kids. It's, you know, it's their first time into this. It's their first game, their first title, their first time around the block. But is it also maybe because in today's culture, for whatever reason, negativity seems to get a little bit more clicks, seems to get more attention? Like, I'm noticing this. I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume you guys are both at least watch or are somewhat familiar with Game of Thrones. And the latest season, like if you go on YouTube and you type in anything on the latest season, it is just walls of hate. Now, granted, you know, I don't think it's necessarily been the best season. I'm not going to be here like season 8's the best, but the point is that it seems to be that, like, if you just go, hey, I really like this, people go, okay, cool. But if you go, I really hate this, then you'll get people who either respond saying why they hate it too, or you'll get people arguing with you, which creates more engagement, which drives more clicks, more traffic, and kind of generates more money, more attention, what have you, right? At least in the short term. So do you think maybe that's feeding into it too? Like, is there a problem here with maybe the algorithms that we use on social media, on Reddit, on these places that kind of encourage you almost to hate? Because if you actually want to get attention, it's almost better in the short term.
Yeah, that's why I can't wait for Twitter to disable likes. They've been messing with the feature, and apparently there is science behind it. When you see, I guess, something that looks popular on the surface, people bandwagon it. So it's the same thing for negativity and toxicity. When people jump on and then, you know, everyone kind of raises their pitchforks because it's cool to do so right now. More people are likely to do it. When these medias start, you know, changing up, like you said, kind of changing up the way information is displayed and whatnot, I think we'll eventually see a change. But till then, this is the era we're in, and it is just really cool to just be negative. And I don't know, I think it's kind of whack, so I stay away from it.
Yeah, I agree. You only have so much energy in your life, right? Like, use it on positive stuff. Love everybody.
And that's one of the things I say. I say, listen, dude, I got so much time in the world, and trying to be stressed out over Game of Thrones is not one of them. Sorry, bud. I'm gonna go do something else, right? Like, it's just not. It's just not.
Yeah, it's like, man, I don't know. Some of these people maybe need a hug or just need to give more hugs. Like, try just going to give somebody a hug, guys. You'll feel better. I promise.
There you go.
I mean, obviously the other big discussion that's been going on recently has just been about the new season and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like we've kind of touched on most of that already. Does anybody have anything that we haven't discussed quickly about season 9 that they really want to get off their chest? Or are we good there?
I'm just glad the drum gun got a nerf, so we can see a lot less, because a lot of people were afraid that they were going to just lower the drop rate for them and not really worry about the actual bouncing of the gun. So I'm glad to see that, because we're going to get some more viability. Like, for example, I played today and I never picked them up once I kept seeing them. So definitely not my first gun now. I'm going like probably Silence SMG right now is got to be the main SMG in my loadout at this point. I mean, my P90, I love the P90, but that thing's gone now. So got to shed a tear for that.
No, yeah, I agree. I think the balance of the game is at an all-time high. I do miss pumps, but it also feels good to understand that I could jump into any battle now and know that I'm not going to get one pump. Like, I'm safe to push anyone who's on death's door, and that's also a good feeling. So I'm loving the update right now. For the most part, it's pretty balanced. I think the pump will forever be missed, but it's just one of those things that you just kind of take with a grain of salt, I guess, because there's pros and cons to it. But we're in a very balanced state, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah. No, this is I think that was a really good point you made about the pump too, because I think it rewards more. Like, obviously, if you can hit the one-shot pump, that, you know, that requires aim, that requires skill, that's great. But without having that at your disposal, it actually forces you to kind of do more things correctly in succession, because you can't rely on this guy putting you from 200 to 10 health and then you just hitting that one pump to save you. You kind of have to position yourself better, and you don't really have that as a get out of jail free card, right? So yeah, I agree. I think that pretty much does it for season 9. I echo your guys' thoughts. I'm having a lot of fun with it right now. I'm having actually the
game's
most
in a
fun.
great state right now.
Yeah,
enjoy it while it lasts. Enjoy the week while it lasts.
season, definitely. Like, I'm enjoying this already more than I enjoyed season 8 at any point. So shout out to the guys at Epic, all the developers, all your hard work. It's paying off. Game's in a great state right now. Hope it stays that way. But with that being said, it's the clips of the week. So I think probably next episode, guys, we're going to do clips of season 8. We're going to take all the clips from our first 10 episodes and kind of see which one of those clips wins. But this is, starting the season 9 clip of the week session. And then again, at the end of season 9, we'll have a clip of the season. And there's going to be a cool prize. I'm not sure what we're going to give to the person who wins clip of the season for season 8. Me and Throoper will have to figure that out. But we'll come up with something cool for you guys because some of these clips are nasty. If you want your clips submitted for future episodes, send them to @TiltedTalkShow on Twitter. Or you can hit me or Throoper with them on Twitter as well. Or you can drop them in our Discord, which will be in the chat and also in the YouTube link down there. Okay, let's go. Clip of the week number 1 is actually from a player on FaZe K. So, really.
Tell me he throws a 360 in here. He's on FaZe, right? Of course he does. He throws more than that. Oh man, that's a little nutty, man.
It was a little mean. It was a little mean.
Just a little.
I don't get how they do it, man. These guys are crazy.
I feel like the spitting had it like elevated him higher like a helicopter. I swear, I felt like he was hovering for a little bit.
Yeah, this was pretty impressive. Like I don't
is
know
he
how
hovering? Is he actually getting higher right there? That's crazy, man. Oh my god.
Can we slow that down? I actually want to count how many degrees this was. This was at least this was more than a 1020 for sure.
He rivaled Tony Hawk for sure, man.
Oh, Tony Hawk ain't got nothing. This is next level.
Pretty much as right at max elevation of the impulse too, he was able to hit that.
All right,
that grappler.
So 360,
1,
720,
2.
That's 3.
Oh my god, dude.
4.
5 of the things. Oh, 6. 6.
Oh my god. Okay.
See, I'm a low sensitivity player, so I run out of mouse space for like a 180. I'm out of space. So can't turn, dude.
Some people's DPI just do that, and it'll do what he did, no problem. That's crazy.
Oh, that's nuts. But low sense is definitely better for controlling things. And realistically, if you're actually being serious, you don't need more than a 180 anyway, right? Like, when do you ever need to do more than 180 degrees instantly? Like, you just don't. So
you got to do the 360, right? Because the 180, you give him your back, technically, right? Isn't that what you right? Did I have it right?
I try and get a 368 from right to left, but sometimes it doesn't quite work.
I'm not cool enough to go for those MLG 360 no scopes. Maybe if it was Halo, but this game is too hard for me, man. I feel old. Clip number 2, Killer Platypus. This was nuts. This guy wipes out 2 squads. I love how he even zooms in at the start of the clip. He edited it. He did a little editing for us here.
Okay.
Ooh. Is that drum gun in combats? Yep. It's the strongest stuff we got right here.
He knows. He's definitely knows the loadout. He's familiar with what he's got to do. A little bit of fast forward and cutting out, I guess, some of the boring parts. Again, it looks like he's done a little bit of editing here for us, but he's just gonna wipe everybody.
Oh my god! Stop it.
8 kills.
Oh gosh.
8 kills. In about
That was spicy.
And I respect it. It's that controller, and he's not L2 spamming, by the way. Just little bop, and then he's holding out his shot, dude. Nice and clean.
Confidence.
Yeah. I mean, everybody kind of gives the controller players crap, but it's way harder to aim with a controller than it is with a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
It's way harder to be that accurate. Like, I don't know. I feel like most people who give that, the auto aim, the controller auto aim stuff, crap, it's like that they've never played a console shooter without auto aim before, because as soon as you do that, you realize, oh no, you need this. Just try killing your own teammate in something like Halo or Gears of War or COD, and you're like, why is it so much harder to aim right now? Oh, because there's no aim assist. Right. It's not actual auto aim, right? It just kind of slows your cursor down over the hitbox of the opposing person. So L2 spam's a little cheap, but hey, I'm an Xbox guy, so don't take it out, Fortnite. I need that Epic. I need to compete. Even when I play on PC, I use a controller. I'm that guy, so please don't remove it. Anyway, clip number 3, Lunar Waves. This is probably just the most BM editing I've ever seen.
Oh, man.
Like this guy just spammed edit a million times just for the sake of spamming edit. I feel like.
Man, is that his friend in creative that he's doing this with? Man, I wouldn't be friends with this guy anymore.
I was gonna say the worst part about
Like,
it
you're
is
mean.
he's in playground or something right now, dude. Like that's the worst part about the clip.
Like, why?
Way to show your boy that he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right? Oh no.
It's just mean. But that was clip number 3 and clip number 4. El Sour, Sar. I don't know. Names are hard, guys. I say this once an episode. Got to make it phonetic. Did you guys catch that?
Ooh.
Oh my God! Yes,
you caught it, right?
He got out the cannon.
Hey, dude.
As this man shoots himself out of the cannon. What? You ain't going nowhere, son.
Aim
Nowhere.
I know. I was waiting for someone to call the aim assist. I want to see, does his cursor follow him like a little bit? It didn't look like it did, but he could not have pulled that trigger any better.
Yeah, it looked like the shot
timing.
went late.
Oh my
God. I don't know. It worked. So I thought that was a pretty nasty shotgun shot. Just it's pretty hard to replicate too. Like that's one of those clips I feel like you'd have to do like 100 times to get that to work. You know what I mean? Which for a clip of the week I always value. But guys, if you want your clips featured, send them to us. We'd love to have community submissions. That's what we're here for. So when you style on somebody, send it to us. We want to see it. And let's go. Drum roll, please. Who won clip of the week this week? According to Le Twitter.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
That's close.
Killer Platypus. Congratulations, my friend. That little killing rampage you went on was
I would say this or the last clip, because I've never seen anything like the last clip before. But this is just perfect Mega Mall play. Like so early too in the season. You gotta love seeing clips like this. Like people just already doing work at these new locations.
Yeah.
Yep.
Using the new guns, like just everything, right? But it's just for me, a clip like this, it's not just one play. Like obviously getting one nasty play is great. When you can string, I don't know.
I thought he was doing solos.
Yeah,
no, doesn't he have a teammate?
Didn't need him. Yeah.
See the teammate at the top?
Yeah. Not there. Maybe they both landed in separate spots. This is some BM here, but
beautiful.
Hey man, if this is called mastery, and it's a good practice. You got to kill a bunch of people who are working together to kill you, right? So, kudos to that guy, Killer Platypus. Good job. You're officially our first entrant into the season 9 clip of the season. So yeah. Let's see. What do we have left here? We have one question from Twitter earlier today. Somebody wanted to ask us something. I'm not sure if we already got to it or not, but let's pull it up. We might have kind of just covered it. We kind of bounce all over the place. So obviously one of your fans here, Monster. Thank you again so much for coming on and being willing to talk to us tonight. But he basically wants to know, how do we think that the recent changes will affect competitive? I think we talked about this a little bit, but the vaulting on the P90, the decrease in health in the ballers and the slipstream. Curious to hear your thoughts. So, I mean, overall, quickly, I think slipstream provides more mobility. Just another way for people to engage in fights, move around the map, and make that, the storm less of an imminent threat. The new change to the slipstream, obviously, really, really awesome for just making it so that we don't see what we saw last weekend, where Storm 5 and people are still just in and out of slipstreams the entire time, which is huge. The baller being nerfed, I think, was something it needed to happen. It's now about as balanced as I think it's going to get. 150 health, that hitbox makes it relatively easy to combat. And when you have the drum gun, you don't need the P90. So, I mean, I like the P90, but even with the drum gun's nerf, I think it kind of fills the exact similar void. Same spot.
I agree.
No, yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head. The vaulting of the P90. I know it might sting for some of you guys, but it was always going to live in the shadows so long as the drum gun is around. So you're not wrong about that. But yeah, for the season changes, if you didn't kind of catch it up until now, as far as what we spoke about, the changes are good changes. More mobility is great, or for the greater good of the community, because it reduces that RNG aspect of zone issue, and it allows people to comfortably take battles while they're in the storm and then know that, hey, I got an escape route. So loving where the current game is, and it's a good thing to see the game going in this direction. Hopefully it continues to kind of develop this way.
Yeah, definitely. Anything to add, Trooper?
No, we've covered it all. I'm just I'm glad to see the pace and the direction that we're going right now. Everything that people have been asking for the last week to change, they have changed. The only thing I believe that hasn't been touched on as of yet is that change to that weird unannounced change for some reason to the health bar. Like when you get shot, it feels like you get lasered to like no HP, but it's because like your whole bar highlights red now when you get shot.
Yeah.
So that throws people off a lot, and it takes your eyes like off what's happening. So they have touched on that, I believe, on the forums on either Discord or on Reddit, stating that they are fixing that. So probably I would expect something like that next week. But other than that, I mean, they have really they've ticked all the boxes this week. I can't wait to see the qualifiers, especially with now the slipstreams being disabled in the late games, and we're gonna see some prominent end games. It's gonna be really, really fun.
Yeah, definitely. I'm super excited, and I think Monster hit it on the nail on the head. Excuse me, with that tweet. You know, it's a home run of a patch. So great job again to Epic. Monster, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely, man. Seriously.
What do you have to promote right now? Obviously, you know, you host your own podcast. Where can people check that out? When and where do you stream? Your social media, plug everything, and you know, we'll post all the links to that as well in the video and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah, the best part for you guys tuning in and listening, if you want to find my stuff, I'm at MonsterDface on all social medias, from Instagram to YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, literally wherever you want to follow me. Go ahead, search me up at MonsterDface. Preferably YouTube though, guys, because my content's up 24/7, so you can find me around the clock, and some of my best content I want to throw out there. So thank you guys for having me this week. I hope y'all enjoy the vibes, and thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. And guys, we're just going to end with this. We're actually starting in about 20 minutes here. If you go to the @TiltedTalkShow Twitter, we are launching a Razer Black Widow keyboard giveaway. So make sure you check out that Twitter account so you can get your hands on that. It's going to be going for the next 2 weeks. But we're really excited to give that away to one of our viewers. So make sure you check that out. If you need a new keyboard, your boys got you. Anyway, guys, until next time, we'll see you later. Thanks for watching.
Peace.